The year is 1119. The dust of the First Crusade has barely settled. Jerusalem, once in Muslim hands, is now a city of Christian banners and blood-stained stones. It has been reclaimed, not without cost, by an army of knights, peasants, and pilgrims who believed they were fighting a holy war ordained by God. But although the city now lies in Christian hands, the road to it remains perilous. From ports in Italy and France, thousands of pilgrims, young and old, rich and poor, embark on spiritual journeys across dangerous, war-torn territories. Robbers prowl the hills, bandits strike at isolated travelers, entire caravans disappear into the desert. And so, in this climate of devotion and anger, a new order is born. Not a king's army, not a group of monks, but something in between. A French knight named Hugues de Bayeux, along with 8 other companions, offer a daring proposal to King Baldwin II of Jerusalem. Let us form a military order, one that is also a religious brotherhood. Let us guard the pilgrims, let us defend the roads, let us take the vows of monks, but bear the arms of knights. The king agrees, and so they are given headquarters at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, believed by Crusaders to be the Temple of Solomon. From this they take their name, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, or, as history remembers them, the Knights Templar. They aren't wealthy, they aren't numerous, but they're committed, and for nearly a decade they operate in near obscurity and silence. 9 men, 9 swords, 9 crosses on their chests, and then everything changes. In 1129, Hugues de Bayeux travels to France, and he appears before the Council of Troyes, gathering of church leaders, bishops, and clerics. He brings with him the endorsement of Bernard of Clairvaux, the most powerful monk in all of Christendom. And Bernard describes the Templars as a new breed of warrior, gentle as lambs among Christians, but fierce as lions towards the enemies of Christ. The council is moved, impressed, inspired. They formally endorse the Templars as a monastic order, and for the first time in history, a group of knights is permitted by papal decree to live as monks, to take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, to own no private property, to eat in silence, to confess regularly, and yet to wield the swords in the name of God. Their vows are represented by the image of 2 knights sharing a horse together, particularly the vows of poverty, their brotherhood, and their humility. And the images show the statue located right outside of Temple Church in London. For a long time, the church had frowned upon violence. Even the Crusades were framed as defensive, not offensive holy acts. But the Templars blur the lines. In Bernard of Clairvaux's tract, The Book to the Knights of the Temple in Praise of the New Knighthood, now commonly referred to as De Laude, he spells out the important distinction that gives the knights the ability to be representations of Christianity and the church while also being killers. Bernard makes clear to differentiate between homicide, the sin of killing a man, and malicide, the act of killing evil itself, which God would consider to be a very noble deed. Although it's important to note that this distinction is very shaky and very questionable. Furthermore, the entire premise of the Crusades, killing to be able to reclaim the Holy Lands and the promise of salvation and absolution of sins, is questionable as well, and is rightfully a source of debate and criticism for the Catholic Church and arguably all who fought for religion during the Crusades. However, Bernard's distinction between malicide and homicide allowed for the order to receive support and special privileges with its papal recognition, meaning that while we should question this distinction, at the time it was a genius way to legitimize the order and give it papal recognition. So despite these founding principles, at the time this was accepted and celebrated. Furthermore, their dual identity gave them a unique purpose, and soon donations began to pour in. Thanks to the order's close ties to nobles, elites, and even kings, large amounts of land and even castles are donated to the order, which enrich it, but also provide foundations for their future business as bankers. Nobles give land, merchants give coin, widows give dowries, all to support the holy mission of this new sacred army. So from humble beginnings, just 9 men in a mosque, the Templars began their rise. Within a generation, they will become one of the most powerful organizations in medieval Europe, but it's also important to talk about some of the other organizations at the time. They weren't the only one. The Hospitallers, otherwise known as Knights of the Order of St. John's, were another medieval Catholic military order founded in the 11th century to care for sick and injured pilgrims in the Holy Land. Like the Templars, they became a powerful military force during the Crusades, protecting pilgrims, defending Christian territories. But unlike the Templars, they maintained their order after the Crusades, evolving into a sovereign military and hospitaller order. The Hospitallers eventually relocated to Rhodes and then Malta, becoming the Knights of Malta, and their legacy continues today through humanitarian work under the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, a recognized international entity. These images come from St. John's Gate in London, which has been a home for the Hospitallers for centuries. And so all of these military groups have quite simple beginnings. They see themselves as servants, not of kings or popes, but of Christ alone. They are not yet legends. They're not yet feared. They're not yet envied. At the time, they were only brothers riding under the sign of the cross, protecting the roads to Jerusalem, and praying that God rides with them.